Hey, this is Jennifer Walden here for Mix Sessions Emmy Awards season event, talking about the sound of Marvel's The Falcon and Winter Soldier, streaming now on Disney Plus. Joining me are five-time Oscar-nominated Emmy, CAS, and MPSE award-winning supervising sound editor Matt Wood, Emmy, CAS, and MPSE award-winning re-recording mixer and supervising sound editor Bonnie Wild, four-time MPSE award-winning and Emmy-nominated sound designer, sound effects editor Kim Patrick, and Emmy and CAS-nominated re-recording mixer Tony Villaflor, all at Skywalker Sound. Thanks, guys, for joining me. Yeah, so let's look at that season finale, episode 106, One World, One People. There's this really great aerial battle between the Flag Smasher piloted helicopter and the NYPD helicopter, and of course Falcon as Captain America. He starts getting into it too. So looking at the sound design there, can you talk about how you created all those great helicopter maneuvering sounds, like that moment when the NYPD helicopter goes into that tailspin?
So yeah, Bonnie and I, we worked back and forth during the mix on that. The original version I cut was okay, but just it wasn't quite hitting right in terms of just that downward spiral spin going down to the bridge. So I think I ended up taking some various helicopter recordings that are just steadies, and then I took the fader and I just was like up and down really fast to get that sort of chopper, sort of classic chopper sound, but then also pitch shifting up and down as it's coming in and messing with pitch back and forth. I don't know, Bonnie, if it works.
Well, what was nice about that, I mean, for us, is that we didn't have music in that little pocket. So I mean, like Henry Jackman did, he did incredible music for this series, and we had a lot of it in the finale, but for that little segment, we could just use the sound design for the music. So we kind of had a little bit more free reign there. And I think, like Kim was saying, in that moment, we just kind of tried to focus on the rhythm of it, because it's like a build and a build and a build and a build, and then to kind of keep the energy going and like make it feel like the threat is happening all the time. And Jeff Ford, who's our picture editor, he's fantastic with sound, and he gives really good direction in those little moments as to how to really be hitting all the little story points and everything and getting all the detail in there. So that was kind of one of the biggest areas that got worked, because also trying to hit like the big impact as well at the bottom of it when we're in, we're working within a spec as well, so it's trying to figure out how to make things feel like much bigger than they really are.
Which has got to be a huge challenge for TV. It's like small screen. How do you get the motion in there, and how do you get the dynamic range in there? So tough, but you guys did a great job on it.
Helps as well. Matt did all the loop in there as well with all the screaming. So we went like back and forth as well with all those kind of things, like energy, threat, all the kind of different moments of like panic.
In that same scene, it was really great sounds from Falcon / Captain America. We get to hear his articulated suit, his flying sounds. There's like that great metallic zippy sort of sound in there. And then he sends out that Red Wing scanner to check out the helicopter. So tell me about some of Falcon Captain America's sounds.
Yeah, that was really fun. What was great is that we had such a great starting place from the movies before to reference, and this series was all about just building out a larger library of sounds for Falcon. And in this episode, he has his new suit, the new Wakanda tech, so it needed to sound a little flashier, a little techier in some way, which, it's already very techy. It's all like Tony Stark tech, but amped up even more with that Wakanda specialty sound now. So I spent a lot of time recording a bunch of different things around my house since we're working from home for the bulk of the series, I recorded my Dyson vacuum a lot. That actually became a core part of Red Wing's jet sound, both when he's like flying super fast and the like sort of stealth mode that's in episode 2 that you hear. Just taking that sound and processing it in various ways. Yeah, all the little extra mech stuff that Falcon suit has now was a lot of like kitchen gadgets that I have and tools, just sort of like clicking them together and hitting them together in various ways and trying to just get that detail that you get in articulation now, because the visual effects are so detailed now, and it's great to have something to cut to like that. And as they were coming in updated and updated, it was like, oh, these need even more detail than what we have. So yeah, taking a lot of stuff around my house and recording it and then processing it with various plugins to sort of stay in that world. We're so familiar with the Marvel sound, the tech that we're all familiar with, but giving it something a little extra special. And Red Wing was like a big thing for sound design, because that had a very small library going into the series. It was some beeps and some buys, not a lot of steadies, not a lot of like the personality that they wanted to give the machine. So I spent a lot of time sort of finding source material for that, which ended up, they wanted it to be bird-like. So I went through a lot of bird recordings, but what I found was like it's hard to sort of get the personality when you're like trying to have it say things to him. So I remembered back in my intern days, I had recorded a bunch of bird whistles for Randy Tom on Rio 2. And there were these awesome water whistles that I brought one because I was like, just in case you ask about it. These cute little ceramic bird whistles. There's some water in here and you just blow into it. And it has a very cute bird chirp sound to it. And by just recording a bunch of versions of that and sort of trying to like talk essentially with the whistle, I made the beeps for Red Wing all from that whistle.
And for processing, some of the crazier like plugins can just add a sound of it by itself.
Mm-hmm.
It just adds this
For
flavor to it. So when choosing plugins to like to manipulate these sounds, what did you go for? Like, what did you feel like kept the sound in the right sort of spectrum that you were looking for?
I ended up using Crystallizer a lot, which is a SoundToys plugin. And I had actually spoken with Nia Hansen, who's done a bunch of sound design on the Marvel movies. And I was asking her more about like, what do you do if you're trying to get sort of a stereo sound? Do you record it in stereo, or do you like use a plugin afterwards to make it a stereo image? And she had suggested trying out Crystallizer. So I had already been sort of messing around with that for various sounds throughout the episodes. And I've just found like throwing these bird whistles into one of the presets and then tweaking the preset within it gave me this really cute, beep, but like has a hint of bird still.
So let's talk about from a mix standpoint. What were some of your challenges on the helicopter sequences? Because if your course, you're dealing with like big music and big effects. So can you walk me through your approach to sorting out those sequences?
Yeah, I mean, I think the approach with like the big sequences like that is almost like shot by shot. Like what do I want to hear in this shot? What do I want to hear in this shot? What's the story? Just trying to pick out very specific things. I mean, when the music's going, the music is always gonna like be driving really, and I tend to not shy away from that in those big sequences, because we're kind of whatever we're working with, we're kind of sticking with like the overall kind of cinematic Marvel aesthetic, which is always the music is doing a lot of work, and you're picking out moments, and you want everything to be clear. Like clarity is a very important thing, especially when we're working for home theater. essentially. You know, things have got to be very focused and kind of still pick out the detail in it, but you just got to be mindful for like what the story is and what impact you're going to have and how you're going to keep the energy going all the time. So it's kind of like meticulously making decisions like in every shot, really, very quickly. And compressing a lot of things.
I was going to ask, like, how do you make room for like big helicopter impact sounds when you've got like big music elements, you know? So a lot of
Yeah, I mean, there's
compression.
a lot of quick carving happening as well. It's kind of just like a little bag of tricks that you kind of pull out. It's like, well, I got to carve this moment, I got to carve that moment. And sometimes you're literally just like slicing into a timeline and just like, you know, you don't want anyone to look at it too much afterwards. You know, you just got to listen and be like, okay, well, that's made that happen, and I don't feel what I'm doing underneath it. You know, like you don't want to hear the limiter doing a bunch of stuff. You've got to be doing the work, like this side of it, um, uh, and making sure that something isn't doing the mix for you. That you've got, like, you just got to be in control of it all the time. You know.
So another big thing in this series is there's so many melee scenes. In terms of sound editorial, how do you keep these fights sounding interesting so that it's not just like a repetitive succession of impacts?
Well, I do a lot of Foley work, and so I feel like that really helped going into these fight sequences, just making sure that every hit had its own unique sound to it, and that the punches had impact, but there was still a grounded feeling in them, which I think is really important in the fight sequences. Like, you want to believe, even though it's like sounds like it's really hurting, you want to believe this person's actually getting hit and it's not just a sound effect. So there were a lot of cloth layers on top of everything to get a lot of the movement, the extra movement you get in between, because if you don't have that stuff, then it does feel like it's just a sound effect. If you don't have that nice Foley connection gluing everything together, that just became so essential, I think, for all of the episodes that had that hand-to-hand combat.
And what about for the impacts on Captain America's shield? I know that's got like a really specific sound. So how did you do that?
Yeah, so that base layer is stuff from the movies and then amped it up a little bit more. The shield feels a little bit heavier, I think, than in the movies, which it should be. I mean, it's a little bit heavier for Sam to carry in so many ways. And so, yeah, I think I would always start with the classic Marvel shield hit sound, and then I did a lot of reversing the ring out and creating longer versions of the shield, especially for like moving when he's throwing it, and then the hits are amped up with like some pots and pans I have at home. And I just added an extra layer or two of baking sheets, which also I ended up using for the fake shield and just sort of removing all of the Marvel sounds from it, so you still get a sense of like, this is supposed to be the shield, but it's obviously not the real shield. So that kind of worked out in the end, that I was able to sort of just like switch it from a little addition to the Marvel shield with some pots and pans to just straight up pots and pans for the fake shield.
Awesome. Did you have a favorite fight scene to design for? There was like some really interesting elements in there. Like I think Carly hits Captain America with a cinder block at one point. So
right.
you know, those are really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I would say both the first episode and the last episode were really exciting episodes to cut for. The first one was just, I watched that first 10 minutes and I was just like, what? This is the opening of a TV show? But once we got into cutting it, it was so much fun to work on. We had Terry Ecton on as a sound effects editor with us. She did an awesome job. She took care of basically all of the vehicles and a lot of stuff for us that really helped out, and she's just amazing. So it was great having her as part of the team. And then, yeah, the episode 6, that whole episode basically feels like one big fight sequence. That was exciting to sort of bring in Sam with his new suit. Red Wing's back. He's not dead anymore. Yay. We've got the Flag Smashers and the, fake Captain America, John Walker fighting. I don't know if I can pick a favorite, really. I had a lot of fun, but yeah, the first and last episodes were great. A lot of fun to work on.
So mix-wise, there's like just so much music for the action scenes, but also for the emotional scenes where the music is supposed to be much more of a feeling than like a prominent feature. For example, during the Falcon Captain America's, we finally have a common struggle speech about mid-episode. There is no music in the beginning of that, but then it like starts to just slowly and subtly come in. Can you talk about your approach to mixing the music in that scene? Like, did you pick out just a few specific stems so that it didn't have an overpowering feeling, or was the track composed that way?
It was composed like that. I mean, I think Henry has a really good he has a really good persuasion for like when not to like overscore. So honestly, his music was pretty. It's that kind of score that is kind of telling you what to do. It was rare that that we sit there, and I don't think we ever did actually sit there and be like, oh, the music's not quite or anything, or the music's to this. I mean, they spot, the way they approach that, they've spotted and they're doing a lot, and he's clearly like perfect for that story. So as I remember, it kind of just sat there pretty. I mean, I want to say I did something fancy and did a lot of work, but it kind of just did its thing without much work on my part, to be honest. I gotta give credit to the composer and to Chris Vogel, who does the score, the score mix. He mixes the score, and he's like really always nailed it. I've got to be honest. It's like it makes our job quite nice this end. But it's definitely just kind of hitting the sweet spot to kind of feel the emotion without taking away from just obviously like really hearing hearing his big speech and everything that's going on, and kind of just leaving space for the build and everything like that. But a lot of that is also just clearing out stuff from the backgrounds and just kind of focusing on the dialogue and the music in areas.
Bonnie kind of said it all, especially about like mixing all these big elements together, the big score, the big sound effects and stuff like that, about being real specific about the sounds that you choose that are going to tell the story. Like you said, music's always going to kind of drive you through there, but shot for shot, just going through all these big action scenes and kind of being really specific about the sound effects that are going to have the biggest impact and tell the story of what's going on screen. I think mix wise for these big scenes, that's the goal. And that's, you're just kind of weeding through these things to find those really specific, poignant moments,
Yeah. I mean, for me, the joy of working on this film was having such a fantastic crew. I mean, I've worked with a lot of this team before on various projects, but have everybody together on this. And I second what Kim said. When we got the show, the first episode was like, oh boy, are they going to keep this pace up for all 6? But there was a lot of character work in the middle episodes as well, which is equally challenging on some respects for dialogue and Foley and all that integration. But then, to be bookended, Tony had to come in really, hard and hit 101, and then, Bonnie and him finished 106 together, which was equally as challenging. But, of course, everyone's at home, so that's a whole other factor. But the crew just really stepped up, and we had seasoned editors and new people, and we have wonderful shoulders to stand on with what's come before in the Marvel universe, and working on this 6-part movie that we did. And and we Doc Kane was great for us, recording a lot of the ADR remotely and with his team. And then we did some unusual practices by recording. We did all the loop group with remote setups with all the actors in their houses, and so I was able to synchronize everybody together and get that loop group into the project. And just having Jeff Ford as our picture editor too was, and Rosie. Well, I can't remember Rosie's last name. Yeah, Rosie, we're both great and just such advocates for sound and really just knew what they wanted as well. So it helped us, in the schedule we have to be very direct about, we're not going to meander around. We're going to get right to it because we just have to be that direct on the show. And Rich Quinn and James Spencer, our dialogue team, were just amazing at making a very high quality version of the AAF and fixing all the little, issues we had. So we didn't have to do a lot of looping. So that was really good. And I was very, very happy with our team and how it ended up sounding. And then I had to listen via binaural headphones for a lot of the evaluation. So it wasn't until the mix actually came out that, I got to hear a lot of the Atmos. I've got a little home Atmos system. So it was, it really translated well. And I got to hand it to Skywalker and the Disney folks for being able to put all the engineering together for us to be able to work in this remote fashion and have everybody connected and give notes we had, I think, the director and our picture editor and our LA team were all in 4 different places and wanting to hear a multi-channel evaluation. So all of that was just, kind of new at that point. And they pulled it off. And I'm super happy that even have an opportunity to talk about the show. It was really, really fun for us all.
It's really nice because the schedules are so crazy that we don't really get to sit down and be like, I would slack Kim like, Kim, I love these beeps, but like I was really crazy for those red ring beeps, but like we don't really get to talk about like how these things get made. So it's really nice actually to listen to Kim and be like, oh, that's so cool, Kim.
I know. I wish I could have actually been there in the room with you when you're mixing, because it came out sounding so amazing. And I was like the same as Matt. I mean, I haven't heard it other than through headphones and on my speakers on my TV, and that just sounds so awesome. So congrats to you both for just doing incredible mix work on this. It's like making us all look really good. So
Bonnie and Tony, the only ones going into Skywalker, really. I mean, our Foley team, I guess our Foley, was Frank's team. Some of it was done at home, I know, as well.
Some was home, some was at the ranch. Yeah, but just sort of like one person at a time walking. Yeah, they did an awesome job. Definitely a big shout out to the whole Foley team.
Yeah, I think it's only me and Tony that actually saw each other, right? Like this.
So you guys had mentioned that this was like a 6-part movie, and it really was. I mean, the episode just flow like one into the other. Like, why did you pick episode 6 of like this chunked up movie? Like, why did you pick that one? There's so many great moments like throughout the season. It must have been so hard to choose.
Everything comes together in 6. I mean, it's got all the overlapping stories resolving themselves. You get to hear all the new equipment, and you get to it all came together in that. I think it's a good layering process of all the different elements playing together at once, and everyone had their hand in that episode. Everyone, the entire crew. So that's a good one from my perspective, at least.
Cool. Well, that was all my questions. Thank you guys so much for taking some time out to have this chat with me today, and best of luck this Emmy season.
Thank you.